Hi everyone, so in this video, or in your video for this week, what we're going to be looking at is just kind of an approximate guide for best practices when it comes to posting on social media. So what we're going to examine in the next few minutes is going to be how much approximately you should post, and then when, like the time of day you should post, and when you should try to avoid. And I'll give you some tips as to some things that you can do to kind of help you out and make some plans and do things of that nature to try to get you a schedule going, if you will. So let's first look at the amount to post. And this is going to vary. This is going to vary based on several things. It's going to vary based on whether it's long-term or long form or short form social media, and then the types of social media. So when we look at long form social media, what you're looking at is a more of a regimented type schedule in general. On Facebook, you want to post once or twice a day as a pretty much norm. So I've mentioned this, I think, in some other stuff that you've looked at or will be looking at as we go through the course. But really, when it comes to posting on social media, what you're kind of trying to do is feed the beast without overfeeding it. So it's a really delicate balance that you're trying to go for here. So you want to post enough to where people are aware of you, where you're coming up in people's timelines and they can see you, so you can get that initial entryway into for that user to come into your marketing funnel, if you will, which we'll talk about later on in the course. So you want to try to get that awareness out there, but you don't want to have so much of yourself out there that it's kind of annoying. So once or twice a day on Facebook, that's a pretty good rule of thumb as far as that goes. You're kind of staying in people's timelines. As they scroll through their day, they can kind of see, you're there. Now, when it comes to personal blogs and YouTube are going to be very similar. And these things, what you want to do with them is you want to do them on a schedule. So you can post on a personal blog or YouTube as little as once a week and still have a good, solid basis for community building in terms of posting amount. But what you want to do is you want to create expectations. So if you post 1 week on Thursday and 1 week on Tuesday and 1 week on Saturday, this is going to turn people off. What you want to try to do in building a community is you want to promote consistency. So however you decide to post, whether it's once a week, whether it's twice a week, 3 times a week, every day, however you want to do it, you want to make sure it's consistent. And since personal blogs and YouTube, since these are things that require a lot more of a time investment, so you can ease back on these and do them once a week if you want to. That's why we're doing our project once a week. It's a good, consistent way to keep things going. You don't, it's like you're playing volleyball. Like, you don't want the ball to touch the ground. So at least once a week is a good way to keep the ball in the air, if you will. But in saying that you want consistency, you want it on the same day and you want it at the same time, which we'll talk times here in just a minute. But you want it really as close to the same time as you can get it. That way, all of your community who's coming expecting something gets what they're expecting. Now, short form, it's a little different because short form is easier to do. And Twitter especially, you're dealing with 200 some odd characters now. And it's also very, very fast paced. So in order to keep that awareness, in order to keep your name in the conversation, you're going to have to post more. Now, Twitter's fairly easy. a sentence or two, and you're good. So you can do that several times a day, and so even like a half a dozen Twitter posts might not be as much content as one Facebook post. But the big deal here is when you consider how fast Twitter goes. I mean, it's insanely fast. So what you post at 2 will be lost in the shuffle at 6. So you kind of want to find that sweet spot based on, where it all works the best. Instagram is another kind of easy thing. I have 1 to 2 times per day here. I'd say you could do up to 3 or 4 and be good. Instagram doesn't move nearly as fast as Twitter. And I know like some of you have probably had people on your Instagram feeds who post like a dozen selfies in a day, and it just immediately annoys you. So when it comes to Instagram, you can keep it a little lower. 1 to 2, 1 to 4, whatever really works. And so when we're talking about our project here and how we post on our different forms of media, you can actually use these things for one another's benefit. So if you make a 10-minute long YouTube video, one day out of the week, I wouldn't do it every day, but one day out of the week, what you could do is you could take a 30-second clip out of that 10-minute video, reformat it for Facebook, and put it on Facebook with a little article. And then have that little article send the individual back to your YouTube page to watch the full video. Same thing on Instagram or Twitter. You could do that there as well. And you could also kind of do those on a rotation. So if you put your YouTube video out on a Monday, on a Wednesday, you might want to promote that video with a short clip on YouTube or on Facebook. And then on Friday, you might want to promote that video again with a little clip on Twitter, let's say. So you're trying to get that engagement across all platforms. If you're using Twitter, since you're posting so much on Twitter, I would make a tweet as close to immediately as possible as you release your video, just to let people know that, hey, I, put out a video. Because really, when you're dealing with a video, that first 24 hours is critical. So you want to try to get as much engagement as possible in that first 24 hours because, after the first 24 hours, it's kind of old news. But when it comes to, and plus the fact, you're tweeting, you have to come up with 4 to 9 tweets a day to try to stay on people's minds. So that's another tweet that can help you. So let's look at when to post now. So we've got a rough idea of how many times we should post. And if you're dealing with similar social media platforms, then you want to post similarly. So like Pinterest, you probably want to post once or twice a day because it would be more like, because it's kind of like a combination of a blog and an Instagram. And when we're posting once or twice, to try to keep that beast fed, we want to do once or twice a day for that. And, like if you were doing Tumblr, that's more like a personal blog. So you could kind of do that on a schedule. Although with Tumblr, it's a little different because people kind of expect some different things. So there's actually a wide range of ways you can post on Tumblr. You could do 20 posts a day. You could do 1 post a week, and it would all be fine. But, other similar platforms are going to react similarly. Like LinkedIn, you want to do probably like you would a personal blog. So on a schedule once a week or once every other week or so. So when to post? So there are certain times of the day that posts do the best, and they do the best for different reasons at these different times. And we'll talk a little bit here about why. So for Twitter, you're looking at about 1 to 3 p.m. is the prime time for somebody to be checking Twitter for them to see your tweet. For Facebook, it's a similar time, about 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Instagram, it's about 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pinterest, it's a little later at night. So it's around 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. or early on Saturday morning, around 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then YouTube, a good sweet spot is around 4 to 6 p.m. And so these best audiences here, they all happen around kind of the core user base for these different platforms. So the core user base of Twitter and the core user base of Facebook are essentially the same. You know, you're looking at, majority, like a prime age for both of these platforms is, late 20s to mid 30s kind of range. So, when they're sitting down to take their lunch break at work, for example, or some kind of afternoon break at work, they might throw open their phone and have a look at what's going on Twitter or Facebook. So these are the populations that are, that's the prime time for these people that are in these populations that are widely using these services to check. But Instagram, it's a little younger. So the people who are checking Instagram are going to check a little later. With Instagram, we're dealing with high school age, older teenagers, young 20-somethings. So these are people, by and large, who are still in school. And, they'll get home from school, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, might do a little homework or have a snack or something, and then throw up Instagram to check Instagram. So we say 5 to 6 here, but 4 to 6 would be a good time as well. Roughly for the same reason that YouTube is. Because a large part of the YouTube population is younger. So you kind of want to wait till they get home from school, because then they'll have the best access to watch all of their videos. But Pinterest is by and large older. We're looking at mid to late 30s and up for Pinterest. So these are people who are winding down at the end of a long day by checking out Pinterest. Or they're getting up first thing on a Saturday morning, getting them a cup of coffee, and checking and seeing what went on Pinterest during the week. And Pinterest doesn't really move that fast either, so that's another good place for this to be. Because since Pinterest doesn't move that fast, you can wait till the end of the day and see a bunch of stuff, whereas if you went on earlier in the day, you might not see that much. So these are, in general, the best times to post on these different services to get the best results. Now, this is all dependent on your audience. So these are general times. But if you're catering to a different audience, you might want to cater to a different time. And we'll talk a little bit more in a minute about what to do to kind of help yourself out with that. So here are some times when you can avoid posting. These are dead zones. On Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's all overnight. Pinterest, it's essentially overnight to the early morning, and that's on weekdays. And YouTube, I actually forgot to change there. That's not correct. YouTube is also overnight. Sorry about that. That's my fault. So most of these you see are overnight. Well, really, all of them are overnight, because I messed up on YouTube again. All of them are overnight. And that's pretty much why. Everybody's asleep. So if you post overnight while everybody's asleep, by the time people actually get to looking at tweets or going on YouTube and watching videos, it's sometime mid to late afternoon, your stuff is all the way at the bottom. And they might not see you. They might run out of time on their break before they get to you, or they might just get tired of looking at Twitter or Facebook or whatever and stop. So you fall into that sort of dead zone where people aren't looking. People aren't looking for you at these times because they're asleep. And by the time they actually start to look, everybody else has come in and posted, and you're at the bottom. So here's some things to try to do to kind of help you make a schedule and do different things. So the first thing is make a checklist. And this will help you with your consistency, and this will also help you make sure that you're doing things daily. So like if you have a Twitter and you want to post 4 times a day, make a checklist, a daily checklist with 4 posts on it. And then put your YouTube video on another day, and put your Facebook posts on another day, and just make a checklist to make sure you're doing everything at the right time, and then you can check it off and move on with your life. You can plan your posts weekly. So this is a great suggestion that I've seen. You can find a similar suggestion online a lot. You can kind of make each of your days, if you have to post every day, because, like if you're posting on Twitter, you have to make 4 to 9 posts a day. You can kind of make each of your days kind of a themed day. So maybe one day a week you're just kind of retweeting some different people and adding a little bit of your own emphasis to what they're saying that are kind of related to what you do. So maybe that's one day. And maybe another day you're looking at news stories that are relevant to the topic that you talk about. And another day, you're kind of doing a more promo-y thing where you're talking more about the stuff that you did in your video for that week. And then another day you might be, like giving out some other tips that are kind of related, that are just kind of short and quick, but don't really fit in your video. So you can try different themes on different days, so that way you're doing something very, very similar every day, but it's also different, and you also have enough ideas of things to post. Because if you just look at it as, well, I have to post 4 times a day every day, and let me think of 28 posts, that's going to be difficult. But if I have to think of 4 posts on this, and 4 posts on this, and 4 posts on this, and 4 posts on this, that's going to be a lot easier. And another thing I have here is that you can try posting at different times of the day, and this is best to do early on. So, maybe during a week early on in a social media campaign, you try to tweet at different times of the day. So maybe you spread out maybe instead of 4 tweets one day, you do 8 tweets. And you do them every other hour. Then you can go back and look at the engagement on all 8 of those tweets. See which got the most views, see which got the most interactions. And you can base your future posting times on the metrics of the posting times that you got from that experiment. Because this is going to help you determine when your audience is really looking at what you're doing. So you can utilize these metrics like that to really help yourself out and figure things out. So that's all I have for you for this video. I hope you guys got a good understanding of some of the best practices to do when you're engaging in these sort of social media community building type of things here. This should give you some good ideas for best practices as to what I would expect for your project as well. If you have any questions, please let me know, and thank you for watching.